I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart and The Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. You know, normally, when it comes to the classics, I say avoid reading them at all costs because most of them are pretentious crap. That is just a fact. However, there are some exceptions. I'm going to do some classic literature reviews that I think books, old-timey books that you might think are boring classroom slogs that I'm going to actually convince you are not. The first being War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Oh yeah. I would put War and Peace in probably my top 10 favorite novels of all time. But then again, I've got about 100 books in my top 10 favorite novels of all time. So maybe one day we'll do a countdown of all my favorite books. And we'll figure out which ones actually do belong in the top 10. But for the purposes of this video, let's just pretend top 10 favorite books of all time, War and Peace. Let me tell you something. This thing holds up today. I mean, this was written in 1869 about the Napoleonic Wars and the invasion of Russia that happened in about the early 1800s, around 1808, 1809, 1810. That's what it's about. It's a big, huge family saga and drama set around the Moscow and St. Petersburg during the Napoleonic War with Russia. And it involves 5 different aristocratic houses. The Berukovs, the Bolonskis, the Rostovs, and the Kuragins. Now let me tell you something. If you love Game of Thrones, if you love the detail and action and adventure and character development of Game of Thrones, if you love Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth or his Century Trilogy, if you love anything by John Jakes, like North and South or his Bastard series, if you love Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series, if you love big epic fantasy, even Neil Stephenson's Baroque cycle, I could go on and on. If you love any of the stuff I've mentioned, there's no reason why you can't read this and love it just as much. Because every one of those series and authors that I just talked about took their inspiration from War and Peace. I promise you that. War and Peace was the first big, major, mega, epic, family, drama, adventure novel ever written. And it still holds up today. It still will hold your attention as such to this very day. If you give it a chance, you just got to give it a chance. Is there old-timey talking? Yes. Is there a lot of verbose and garrulous description, over-description? Yes. But a lot of the authors and a lot of the books I just mentioned have the same thing. So do not be scared of this. It's 1,300 pages of action, adventure, drama, melodrama, soap opera, war scenes, duels, people just betraying each other left and right, people falling in love and out of love. It's got everything that you could want in a novel. It is literally the world's great novel. That's what they call it, you know. I'm here to just say, man, give it a go. Give it a go. If you can get through 5 George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones books that are all 1,000 pages each, if you can read all of the other books that I've mentioned, you can get through this and you're going to enjoy it, I promise you. I promise you. The characters. I have read this 3 times. I've watched the BBC miniseries a couple times. Now, when I read this, let me tell you something. This is kind of a big collector's edition volume right here. And the translation, here's the thing. You got to find the right translation, folks. This translation I do not like of the book, even though I like the way the book looks on my shelf because it's a hardcover and it's real nice and expensive and it looks sharp on the shelf. I don't read it because the translation is quite flat. I mean, the translator that they got was really made the words. I mean, it's really dumbed down for people to understand. This paperback, however, this Signet paperback is the one I read and reread because the translation is magnificent. There's a difference in translations. I mean, it was originally written in Russian, translated to English. Nice book, bad translation. Little paperback, fantastic translation. The translator really makes Tolstoy's words sing and come off the page. I would explain it as if this were the King James version of the Bible with all of its wonderful prose and poetic verse that it's got. This would be the NIV version of the Bible where all that's been stripped out for people that don't enjoy reading, quite frankly. It's been stripped out and just kind of watered down for people to just easily understand. So if you're going to read The War and Peace, get a translation that actually gets you into the flavor of the Russian world and the Russian way of speaking and all of that. Or you can just watch the movie. You can do that too. This is an 8-series movie, and I'm telling you, BBC put this out a couple years ago. Eight. I think there's 8 episodes, all an hour each, and it's pretty darn faithful to the book. Pretty darn faithful to the book. Not only that, but this is filmed gorgeously. I mean, the lush Russian forests and the grand ballrooms. That's the thing that I'm talking about this story. This story takes you from the gutters of Moscow and St. Petersburg to the bloody battlefields of like Austerlitz. I mean, the Austerlitz battle of the Napoleonic Wars plays a huge part in this. The Austerlitz battle, just magnificent, bloody battles, gripping bloody battle scenes. The gutters of St. Petersburg and the whorehouses of St. Petersburg and Moscow and the brothels all the way up to the grand aristocratic ballrooms and just all of the pomp and just all the great things that come with these grand palaces. Just beautiful, beautiful. And Tolstoy describes it all so well, at least in this version. That version a little not. But in this version, it's all so described so eloquently and with such great language that you just soak yourself in the story. You are in Russia. If you are in a Russian battle, you are in a Russian battle. I mean, he does not just skim through. He goes through and he lets you know what's going on in that battle, step by step. Weapon by weapon, maneuver by maneuver, and when they step out of the battle scenes into some of the other things like the grand ballrooms or some of the other streets of Moscow and St. Petersburg, it's the flavor is there. You can taste it, you can smell it, and they filmed it just the same way. It's gorgeously filmed. The set pieces, oh my gosh. The grand ballrooms, you just want to go there and just be like, hang out and enjoy the party with these people, right? And the thing about it is these people are all scheming against each other. You know how it is. I mean, this is like Downton Abbey dialed up to 59, you know? On a scale of 1 to 10, Downton Abbey being a 10 with the drama and the melodrama. War and Peace, we dial that up to 59, 60. I mean, it's way off the charts. I mean, these people, they are scheming and backstabbing and talking behind each other and doing dirty deeds on each other. It's just great. It's just a great story. And people need to give it a chance. And those of you that have given it a chance and love it know what I'm talking about. 5 families in Russia. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. The story has heartbreak. It's got soaring moments of bravery. Just stuff that hits you in the gut like, oh, why are these characters making such poor decisions with their life? And you just root for some of them to get together and just live happily ever after. You really do. I mean, when Andre, let's talk about some of the main characters. I mean, the main characters are Peter. He's kind of like he's got the money, he's got the style, he just isn't very successful with the women, right? And so he's kind of always downtrodden and picked upon because he's just not the greatest, smoothest of guys. Whereas everybody else in court and everybody else is like a soldier and a war hero, and he's not any of that. And so, but he desperately wants to be. And so he's kind of like our protagonist throughout this. We kind of see most of the story through his eyes, through his sort of idealistic, he always wants to do the right thing and be the right kind of person eyes. And then we've got his best friend, Prince Andrei. And then we've got his cousin, Natasha. And then the other family in the Kuragans, we've got Helena and Anatole, who just are not the good people. They're kind of part of the problem here. They're kind of the schemers. They're kind of behind the scenes doing everybody dirty. But when Andrei and Natasha get together, you're just rooting for their because both of them have been through such hell. Especially Andrei's been through hell and back over and over and over. And then he finally gets to be with Natasha, and you're just rooting for him so much. But then so many things go wrong. And it tugs at you. It just tugs at you back and forth like the great novelists of our day can do. I mean, Leo Tolstoy was doing it way before them. Way before them. And then the philosophical just ruminations of Peter as he's just trying to figure out life and how come nothing ever really works out for him. And he's just and that's the part of the writing of Tolstoy's writing that I love the most. And it's probably why a lot of people love some of these guys that have huge word counts in their novels, like Pat Rothfuss and George Martin and Tad Williams and Robert Jordan. And a lot of these writers, they put in a lot of the characters' thoughts and feelings and ruminations and philosophizing and inner philosophizing in their heads. And sometimes in War and Peace, we'll just get several pages of Peter just philosophizing about every single thing in his world, whether it's relationships or war or post-traumatic stress or the class system or the peasants that he sees or the serfs that work for him or the hypocrisy of the aristocrats that he's around. He philosophizes about them all, and you know that Tolstoy is just a sharp, sharp guy because he's hitting on themes and stuff that are even relevant today. I mean, you read some of the stuff that these characters are talking about in this book, and you're like, oh my God, our politicians have not changed since the Russian, since the advent of Russian communism and socialism. And it's just like, these characters all wrestle with these overlying things that are coming down upon them that they can't control, like war, Napoleon, the government of Russia, the nobility of Russia, and they are all part of the nobility of Russia, but yet they are also fighters for their own causes. And they just, it's just so dramatic in scope and epic, just hugely epic. And then there's moments of just personal anguish and personal triumph, like the duel between Peter and, one of the plot twists is Peter marries Helena, one of the kind of bad girls of the books. She's a bad girl. She's a bad girl. And, she has rumors to have affairs with everybody, including this soldier that's just kind of like this cold-hearted, badass soldier named Dolokhov. And Dolokhov and her are rumored to be in an affair, and Peter, at a big banquet and a big aristocratic, important government banquet, Peter calls the guy out, says, you do not steal what is mine. I've had enough of everyone's crap. I'm calling you out for a duel. Remember, Dolokhov is a seasoned war veteran, and Peter has not succeeded in anything at life at this point. And they go out and they duel, and just the duel, Tolstoy takes us from massive battlefields where everybody is just getting slaughtered left and right, just right down to personal duels between individual characters. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen, And then the duel happens, and there's a scene where at the duel, I'm not gonna tell you who wins the duel, but they fall to the ground. and they bite into the snow because it's just a snowy forest that they go have this duel in, and it's a pistol duel, right? And they step off. You know how pistol duels are. They've seen it in every Clint Eastwood movie, but now we're doing it in Russia in the middle of the forest in the wintertime, and it's just set up beautifully, and it's described impeccably. You can feel every drop of blood, and the guy dies, and he hits not dies. I won't tell you the ending. The duel, one of them wins the duel, one of them doesn't win the duel. He falls to the snow. Just a beautiful scene that's written, bites into the snow, crawls back to his feet, snow in his mouth, takes his final shot, even though he's already been shot. Oh my gosh. That scene had me riveted in the book, and when I was waiting for that scene in this movie, and oh my God, these BBC guys, they filmed it exactly how it happened in the book, and I was ecstatic. And not only that, but there is, if you just want to skip the reading and just watch the series, that's fine with me. I say read it first, watch the series here. But in this series, the BBC miniseries, Natasha is played by Lily James, who, you can't find a more perfect person to play the Russian princess Natasha than Lily James. And some of you might already know who that actress is. But if you don't, Google her, and then you'll recognize her right away. Lily James is just magnificent in this role. And when her and Andre when he first walks up to her in the ballroom and asks her to dance, they filmed it. It's one of the most beautiful, gorgeous ballroom dance scenes that I have ever seen filmed. I mean, I was just like, I want to be there. I want to be part of those two. And the way the two actors act off each other as they're dancing around that ballroom, and the camera is following them around, and it's flashing back or it's actually flashing forward to how they're gonna get along in life later. And there's these scenes of them flashing forward and how happy they are. And you can see it's just the meeting of two people that are destined to be together. And it's just filmed so amazing. I can't even get over it. Every time I watch this, I rewind that 5 to 10 minutes of filming and just watch it again. And the music overlay and just the acting and the way they're looking at each other and the way they're dancing with each other and the amazing, just gorgeous ballroom that they're in, and all the set design and all the clothing design. I could just go on and on. I love this story. I love Tolstoy's writing when it's been translated correctly. I get into this about every couple of years and just read it, and it takes me about a week to read the 1,300 pages, and I just soak myself in the atmosphere. I want to be a Russian for the 3 weeks the week that I'm reading it. I mean, I really do. I want to go there and see those places. The closest I've ever been to Russia, and I'm wearing a shirt that I bought there, Berg Hokosterwitz, which is in southeastern, south middle Austria. It's a big fortress. You can see it here on top of a mountain. Closest I've ever been to Russia. But it's a beautiful place. I mean, Austria is just a beautiful place. And War and Peace takes place mainly in Russia, but I mean, we're all over Eastern Europe in this thing. It's just great. I can't recommend enough for anybody who wants to read the first ever grand adventure novel, war novel, melodrama, soap opera, just all combined into one. Oh my God. Sometimes the classics are classic for a reason. Sometimes they're not, I will admit. There are some shitty books out there that high school and college teachers make their students read, and that should be knocked off. Shut that shit down. Shut it down. Shut it down. In fact, I wouldn't even give kids this to read. I wouldn't read this until you're in your late 20s, early 30s, until you've experienced a little life and you can relate to what this guy's talking about. Because an 18-year-old kid ain't gonna be able to relate to any of it. Just ain't. So, I mean, I don't even recommend this for young people. This is an adult. This is for some people that just, you've already experienced life. You already can relate to everything that these characters are going for. 10 out of 10. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. My favorite classic novel of all time. And I'll go to my grave saying that it's awesome. And I'll go to my grave saying, if you love Ken Follett historical novels, and if you love Diana Gabaldon historical novels, if you love, even Jane Austen and that kind of stuff, you're going to love this. If you loved watching Downton Abbey, you're going to love this. If you imagine Downton Abbey mixed with Braveheart, and you're done. You're done. You got it. You got it. So anyway, War and Peace, everyone. Go out, find this version if you can. It's the best translation there is.